Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I have a bit of new polling to share with you guys. I know I just did a big segment on polling, but Donald Trump, as you guys know, is getting ready to take the dais. He's going to try to BS the country, tell us how great everything's going. So I wanted to show you this because these polls prove that there's only a tiny fraction of the country that's still buying this bullshit. So first up, I have the joint poll. It was conducted by Ipsos on behalf of ABC and the Washington Post. And this shows that Trump is hitting a new second term high on his disapproval rating. So this is really key because his approval rating hasn't changed too much, but the disapproval is going up. So look at this. 39% approve of how he's doing his job, 60% disapprove. So what this tells me, and I've mentioned this before, is people are coming off the sidelines. When you see numbers that, aren't going up and down at the same rate, when approval is pretty much steady and disapproval is increasing, that means people who were previously on the fence and said, I don't really know yet. I want to give him more time, give him a chance to enact some of these things he's promising. They're now going, okay, no, this is not what I signed up for. I'm not happy. His disapproval rating, by the way, hasn't been this high since right after the Capitol attack. This is the highest it has been since then. And he's also underwater on all of the issues that they polled. So take a look here. As you can see, the economy still not that bad. I mean, he's underwater by 16 points, but he still has a 41% approval. But, look at his handling of immigration. Only 40%. He's 18 points underwater, and then 32% on his handling of inflation, which is kind of weird because you would think the economy and inflation would go hand in hand. I don't know. Maybe people are looking at the economy and in their minds they're thinking stock market is up. I don't know. Anyway, and then check this out. So 65% of the respondents said that he is going beyond his authority. He is exceeding his authority as the president. So that number has to include some of his own voters. 65% would not be all Democrats and, left-wing independents. I don't believe so. And then when they asked people if the Trump administration is committed to protecting the rights of Americans, 56% said no. That is also pretty shocking. I mean, he's supposed to be, the everyman. He's for the forgotten man and woman. And they're like, no, he's exceeding his authority and he's not protecting us. And then this next one is really damning as well. So Ipsos asked these people if Trump is using his presidency to enrich himself. So this is something we all have known, but it seems like the right is finally catching on to this. So take a look. 62% said yes. It was only 56% back in September of last year. And now 62% of the respondents said yes. Again, that has to include some Republicans based on how high that number is. And then in regard to his deportations, 58% say he is going too far. So you now have a majority of the country, and you can see how that number has just increased. So last April, almost a year ago, it was only 48%. Now 10 points up. And, it was only 50% just a few months ago. And Americans are very united on this next issue. When it comes down to Fourth Amendment rights, our rights against illegal search and seizure, Americans are not having it. So take a look at this. This was probably, not probably, this was like the highest number that we've seen. So again, this has to include 77% of respondents said, yeah, federal law enforcement should be required to obtain a judicial warrant before they enter someone's home. So again, I mean, this absolutely includes some of his own voters. And that's the thing. You know, I think people are looking at this and going, okay, well, if we're now tearing down this guardrail, eventually we're going to have a Democratic president. And, you know, do we on the right do, you know, I'm not saying me, but does MAGA and even just, you know, Republicans on the right are saying, do we want the Democrats to do this to us? Like they can, you know, they arrested a bunch of people for January 6th. Do we want them now to just be able to bust down our doors without a judge looking at a warrant first or approving a warrant? And then a plurality, 48% of respondents in this poll said that they think the country's economy has gotten worse since Donald Trump took office. So as you can see here, unbelievably, it's not a majority still. But, you know, as you can see, there's another 22% who say it's about the same. So that's not good for him, right? But when you have a combined 70% saying he's really not doing anything, and what he is doing is making it worse, that is horrendous. And then this last one in this particular poll, it really shows how the vibes have shifted against Donald Trump. So they asked respondents to describe themselves, or they asked them, do you describe yourself as a supporter of the MAGA movement? Here's what they found. Only 26% said yes. Only 26%. And then you can see in that second line down below, 54% of the people who took this poll consider themselves to be Republicans or they are independents who lean Republican. So out of that, you only have 26% who said, yeah, I support MAGA. That is a massive shift. And then this next poll I have for you is the CNN SSRS polling. This is even worse for Trump. So take a look. This is his approval rating, 36%. Only 1 year in. I think we could get it down in the 20s before his time is up, before he either, you know, kicks the bucket with those giant cankles or leaves the White House. But 63% disapprove. Again, this is like a record high disapproval rating. I looked at the stats for previous months and years. The only time it was lower in this poll was, again, right after January 6th, right after the Capitol attack, and then in September of 2018. And then check out the crosstabs on this. This is really telling. So here you have the breakdown of all the different demographics. He is underwater with every demographic group, with the exception of, which I don't know if it's on here, but there was another document I looked at. White Americans without a college degree, he still is slightly above water. But if you just look at white Americans across the board, you can see he's below water. He's under, you know, by what, 10 points? And then, I mean, he's doing just horrifically with every other demographic group, but definitely he has lost all the gains that he made with young voters, with Hispanic voters, with Black voters. I mean, those are all down in the 20s. If you look at ages 18 to 34, I don't know if you guys can make it out, but he does a 25% approval rating only with that age group. And then 22% approval with Latino Americans, and then 21% with Black Americans. So, and then independents, I mean, that is pathetic. You cannot win without independence. And he's in negative territory with men for the first time. Or not the first time, but it's been going down. But what is that, 40% positive with men? They were always his strongest supporters. And then, like I said, he's at 26% with independents. He has lost 8% support among Republican voters. And I know people say, oh, that's still way too high. You know, he still has 82% approval with Republicans. I get it, but as I keep reminding everyone, Republicans are a tiny fraction of the electorate. The largest voting group in the US now is independents. They now make up 45% of all registered voters in America. It's the highest it has ever been. So when you see these figures for Republicans, understand these are the hardcore people. These are the most loyal, the most hardcore Kool-Aid drinking Republicans, because all of the logical, intelligent Republicans who, you know, have a conscience, who still have morals and ethics and principles, they left the party. They are now independents, or they're full-on Democrats. So you're getting down to the bottom of the barrel. You're getting down to just the people who are the most sycophantic. So of course the numbers are going to be high. It's like I explained before. If you have, 10 people and all of them support Trump, obviously it's 100%. If a person leaves, becomes an independent, you now have 9 people. So if all of them support Donald Trump, it's still 100%, but you have fewer of them. Even if half of them leave and all the remaining people support Trump, it's 100% approval rating, but it's only 5 people now. So yes, the numbers are high. It's disturbing that Republicans still support him in such great numbers. But understand that it's a dwindling group. It's a group that is shrinking by the day. So anyway, guys, that is it for this segment. I will have more polling for you probably next week. I don't want to overdo it, overload you on polls. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe if you have not. Check to make sure that you are still subscribed. Some people get unsubscribed somehow and they don't know. If you can donate, really appreciate it. You can become a supporter. By the way, this Saturday is our hangout, our virtual hangout on Zoom. So for anybody who is a $4.99 a month or more subscriber over on Patreon. People used to be able to sign up on other platforms, but it was getting too hard. So anyway, it's all now on Patreon. You can come hang out with us. We spend, a couple hours Saturday morning just talking. Sometimes we talk about politics. Sometimes we talk about other stuff. So anyway, guys, thank you so much again. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.